I'm Eric Lobdell. We're here in the Humless demonstration truck showing the Humless Universal. The Humless Universal is a universal energy management system. What this system does, it's a little different than everyone else's. It's fully stackable, 120, 240 volt split phase unit that also has expandable energy storage. So we're going to talk about a few of the features with the Universal today in our demonstration truck. This is a great truck. It's a completely off-grid truck. We have 20 kilowatt hours of storage in this canister right here. This is also the Humless Universal control. The control, we do have a bigger screen. This is my display screen, so we use for training and showcasing. But it shows you it's a 120, 240 volt split phase. Right there you can see we're putting out about 1.7 and 1.2 amps. That's currently running the lights in this off-grid truck. But we're also charging at 50 watts. Now we currently have a cloud over us right now, and that's going to show us what we're charging. We just jumped up to 120. Now we just jumped up to 200 watts, 260 as that cloud passes over us. So what the Humless Universal does is it manages loads differently than everybody else. Inverters are great machines. They convert energy for the consumer and they convert energy for the customer. This is different. The Universal uses intelligent energy management. Therefore, we control loads and send power where it needs to go for the customer and for the consumer. We're going to do a few examples of that. The Humless Universal also AC and DC couples from PV solar simultaneously. Very, very important. We manage loads and charge batteries more efficiently using effective energy and intelligent control. This is very important. I want to use an example of that. Right now my charge watts just disappeared and the cloud's going over us, so my inverter's putting out about 120 watts or 1.7 and 1.2 amps on each leg, and we're not charging. Let's use an example of that. Here's the clouds disappearing, charging's coming up. If I turn off the load or turn off the lights currently on in the truck, we're going to see that charge rate increase. Okay? The charge rate just increased because the inverter is doing nothing and the load is off. So all those amps, a whopping 3.27 amps, is going into the battery right now because it's ahead of the load. Okay, so again, we're talking about our charge watts. We are using a Solar Edge system right now with optimizers, which is a current source grid tied device. This is very, very important. The Humless Universal works with any current source grid tied device currently in use in America. Solar Edge, ABB, Enphase, SMA, AP systems. Those are all devices that people are using in the United States that are grid tied for their solar. The Humless Universal will work with all those, but what's unique about it is we can island those systems. That means the Humless Universal is running that Solar Edge right now, but it's also converting the Solar Edge into amps, which is charging my battery bank. So I'm at 52.5 volts and charging. Why that's unique is this Solar Edge that's in this truck is off-grid. It's a grid-tied device, and we're using it off-grid. That means customers in America that have solar and power outages can continue to have that solar powering their critical loads while charging their battery banks and being ready. Very important. Another thing is, here's our charge watts. I want to talk about AC and DC coupling a little bit. When we AC couple off the Solar Edge, again, I'm running loads and putting amps in the battery. Watch this change from my small array when I put more of a load on it. Okay, our charge watts just dropped. Okay, so as our amps did as well, going to the battery. But my inverter is still doing nothing. Only 1 amp is going out right now. What we're doing is called AC and DC coupling simultaneously. What's unique about that is we are taking load that's coming off the we're taking energy that's coming off the PV solar and using it to run loads without microcycling our batteries. This is very effective use of people's storage because we're running loads efficiently, we're running loads intelligently, but we're not microcycling our storage. Matter of fact, we're ahead of the load, not by a lot, but 200 watts, so I'm still getting 5 amps that's pushing to my battery bank, therefore charging my battery bank. Very effective. That means the customer is not microcycling, but they're also running loads directly off the PV from the front end, which means they're a simple way to place that is systems work less hard. If the inverter is working less hard and the system's working less hard and the batteries aren't microcycling, this is going to provide longevity of systems for the customer. Okay, let's talk about some of the features that the Humless Universal also have. So again, it is a 12240 volt split phase system that's fully stackable. This means we can stack inverters for larger systems. We actually can stack inverters for 3-phase in 208 systems. But another thing is it's got a lot of advanced features. We have generator controls. So we can go to the generator screen. We set the generator. We can set it for manual or auto. We have a quiet time feature. That means this generator will not kick in at night unless it's absolutely a critical battery condition with the grid off situation. So a lot of features there. We also have features for our installers for settings. We have load shifting settings. So we can start and stop and pick the amperage level in different areas of the country for load shifting. It depends on how your grid is set up. We currently here in the Utah area have a credit system, so maybe we don't give as many amps to the grid when it's not necessary because we only get a credit. But there are other places where you actually can do time of use and you want to give more amperage. So all that's available for different areas of the country and you can turn them on and off. Same with the cell and charge blocks. You can choose when to block the grid so you're not charging and using the grid at all. You also can choose when to give to the grid and pick the amperage and decide when to sell. So also available for different areas and different consumer needs for the customer. Another fantastic thing is smart outputs. Okay, this is very important with energy storage systems that you can set it up for what your customer and you want to accomplish. We have critical loads, obviously. Critical loads is always going to be our mandatory system. No matter what happens, this energy storage system is going to focus on critical loads. But then we have a secondary, less important critical load. Let's use some examples of that. That could be air conditioning units. That could be microwaves. That could be an EV car charger, perhaps. So that's important. Let's charge that for our customer. But at the same time, in an absolute situation where weather is poor or the grid has been off for a long time, or maybe you're off grid and the snow has been coming in pretty heavy, you want to protect your critical loads. Our system will use advanced features in a low battery condition and knock off that less important critical load automatically. It will just switch it off. You can't even use it until your battery voltage increases. We also have power versus frequency controls and no power versus frequency controls. That is for different grid-tied devices. Remember, the Humless Universal works with all of the current source grid-tied devices in America currently. We can place our settings to make those devices work in an island or in an off-grid situation. So that's in the smart outputs. There's master out settings for different size inverters. The Humless Universal comes with different size inverter engines. There's a 4 kVA, a 7 kVA, which we currently have in the system, and an 8.5 larger kVA. 12240 split phase means we also can stack. That means we'll stack extra inverters for larger systems and settings that are also for this type of array. The truck only has 8 panels here in the demonstration truck, so we have a 2.16 array size, all in your settings. Another one is battery type. The Humless Universal is completely battery agnostic. That means we can work with lithium, we can work with gel, we can work with AGM, flooded, and custom settings. This is a fantastic feature. I think it's important for certain customers that may have a mountain cabin with a battery system already in place. That storage is theirs. They want to use it till it's depleted. We'll set this system up to match that. Set the amp hours and all that. Custom settings let us do all that in advance. Equalization is obviously off because we're currently using lithium in our canister. So equalization is always off for lithium, but the settings are all available. There's an events page, will tell us anything that happens. These are high loads that I've run on purpose testing the system. It'll tell me the event and what it was. There's also a simple display for just being, I'll use my example of my niece. The on off button is gone for the simple display, which is right there. She's figured that out, by the way. Okay, so the Humless Universal demonstration truck, we call it the rolling power truck, is also set up with 3 different grid-tied inverters. Okay, what we're doing here is we have 8 solar panels across the roof of the truck. That brings in my DC from the solar to my breakers. Okay, and that's going over to 4 different systems. I only have 1 array, so I can only show 1 at a time. But basically, that's what this switch box is. And for you electricians and solar installers out there, we do call this the rat's nest. But it is designed to show you 1 system being turned on at a time. We are currently running the Solar Edge completely off grid. It's producing about 600 watts. Okay, that means the solar and the Solar Edge and the optimizers are being turned on by my system using the Humless Universal software. Okay, very important. We can take this Solar Edge completely off the grid as you see it now. We can island it as a grid tie and use it when the grid fails. It's really how we design our systems to use it intelligently. I think this is important. We don't change how Solar Edge works. We don't change rapid shutdown with Solar Edge. What we do is just use it more intelligently. And that's what the system with the Universal is doing. The end phase we can also turn on by flipping this switch. The Solar Edge is off. Again, I only have 1 array on the roof, so I can only run 1 array at a time. And now we're switching the end phase on. In about 30 seconds, the switch over, the end phase will kick on, and now we'll be AC coupled with the end phase. The Humless Universal also comes with a built-in MPPT. That's our DC charge controller. So let's remember that we also AC and DC couple simultaneously from PV. That is a fantastic use of your customer's energy. We bring that energy into battery banks and we pull that energy out where the customer needs it. By AC coupling, we can run loads more efficiently and more elegantly without microcycling batteries. Then you look at the DC charge controller, which is just focused on one thing and one thing only, and that's putting amperage into your batteries so it's full and ready. Okay, so now we're still talking about features of the Humless Universal that are a much more effective use of your customers' and consumers' power. So over a couple of them we've discussed is stackable inverters. We can stack these inverters and again match 3-phase. We are fully open loop chemistry. That means with lithium like this, I can expand from 20 kilowatts currently in this cabinet, add a block of 10 and make it 30, add a block of 10 and make it 40, add a whole entire cabinet, make it 50, 60 kilowatt hours. But the other thing in one of our most advanced features is the fact that we AC and DC couple simultaneously. So a few things are going on. One, our 8 panels on the roof are putting in about 800 watts right now, and about 15 amps are currently going, and those amps are dumping into the battery and charging our chemical storage. Notice this yellow highlight right here. The yellow highlight will come on whenever the system is ahead of the current load. That means I am AC coupling. Remember the Humless Universal, AC and DC couples from PV solar simultaneously. This means we are running loads without cycling these batteries. We're ahead of the load and we are pushing amps into the battery. So we're running loads at the same time as we're filling our storage. Why is that important? It's important for longevity and elegance and system efficiency. Intelligent energy management means I'm currently running the lights and the things we're charging in this truck without working the system or microcycling our storage. Therefore, I'm ahead of it and we're pushing. Now, let me give you an example of the lighting. If I turn off the lighting in the truck, we will see the charge rate go up. Okay, our charge rate went up, which tells me my lighting was running about 250 to 300 watts. It went up because we're not pushing that load anymore. If we're not using that, more goes into our storage. Okay, again though, we're not microcycling batteries as we start to turn on more loads. First set of lighting comes on, charge rate drops a little bit, but we're ahead of it. We're not microcycling the battery. A little bit more lighting comes on, drops a little more, yet we're still ahead of the load. Now, we have 2 air conditioning units in the Humless rolling power truck. I only have 8 panels on the roof. If I get ahead of the load, meaning I'm needing more than I'm currently pulling off the roof from my AC couple, then we'll pull from the chemical storage. Let's see an example of that. We'll turn on the air conditioning units. Okay, so our charge rate just disappeared and our yellow highlight went away, meaning we're behind the load. Notice something though. our charge rate of 900 watts disappeared. We're running an air conditioning unit, and we're only using, we're changing as it, startup surge and balances out. We're only using about 1,000 watts, 900 watts currently. This is important. That air conditioning unit uses about 1,800, 1,900 watts. The AC couple from the PV is offsetting that need. So we're pulling less from the chemical storage than we would need to be in a traditional DC coupled system. Again, the way we AC and DC couple on the front end allows us to use the power more efficiently and more elegantly for your consumer and for your customer. Okay, if we drop that air conditioning unit back off, the load disappears, charge rate comes back up, and watch our highlight come back on as we're ahead of the load. So again, it's very important the way the AC and DC coupling allows the Humless Universal to balance and manage loads and energy for your customer, sending it where it needs to go, also doing it more efficiently without microcycling and working systems harder.